everybody, my name is Olivia Gudaniec, and today we're at the Gary W. Morden Center. We're going to talk to a few individuals today about fire and safety.
Hi, I'm Nancy McDonald-Duncan, Assistant Chief, Fire Prevention and Life Safety for the City of Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services.
If you guys are new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, because we've got some really cool interviews coming your way. Tell me a little bit about your job as an Assistant Chief. Like, what exactly does that mean, and what exactly do you do on a daily basis?
So, as Assistant Chief in Fire Prevention and Life Safety, my job is really to oversee all of fire prevention. So what that encompasses is looking after plans examination, which is a division within fire prevention. That particular team or unit reviews plans for new building constructions or renovations as they relate to fire safety. On request, we attend functions where we can provide various types of public education. The important thing about the fire code that I really just want to point out today is that it was created to maintain buildings the way they were built, the way they were constructed. And the changes that we see are the direct result of tragedy. So anybody that says, well, I don't know why you're making me do that, I can tell them it's a minimum standard, it is not a maximum standard. And again, there are hundreds of sections in the fire code that were directly created to address tragedies that we've seen.
And you guys are looking out for the safety and well-being of everybody. So it's in your benefit to follow the rules. Okay, Nancy, I thank you so much for spending the day with me, and I have to ask you before you go, if there was another job you could do, whether it's for a day or a week or maybe your childhood dream, what would that be and why?
So if there was another job, it would be a justice of the peace.
Okay.
I think my whole career life I always headed down that legal kind of path, and I think in my mind I always thought, well, if I'm not going this direction, I probably would have went in that direction. I believe in public safety. I believe there are rules, and I think that, you know, there is a fair justice system and people deserve to be heard, but at the same time, those that don't want to abide by the rules, sometimes there has to be enforcement.
Hi, my name is Gary Pike. I work for the City of Mississauga for the Fire and Emergency Services, and I work in the Fire Prevention and Life Safety Division.
So right now we're here with Gary Pike here. Don't mind the height difference. He's going to teach us the importance of a portable extinguisher, but before we get to that, I have a few questions if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So what's the mandate, mission, goal of this whole department?
Well, I think as it relates to the Fire Prevention and Life Safety Division, what we'd be looking at is to ensure that we're maintaining and meeting the very minimum fire and life safety standard requirements.
And where's Domino the safety dog? Does he run around here for all those children watching?
He does actually come out with us occasionally from time to time to our public education events, and most often you'll see him going into the schools and engaging with the youth.
Well, that's fun. I wish I had that growing up. So on an average basis, let's say that a fire was starting now, how long do we typically have to escape?
That's a good question, but I would say on average you have approximately 2 minutes to get out safely, and in just under 5 minutes it can become fatal.
Okay, and just because I was reading through some of your pamphlets, we should always stay low to the ground if there's smoke,
Yes.
right? And if we're trying to get out, should we have our eyes closed and we're feeling for the door?
So if you're in a bedroom and the door is closed, you want to make sure you go to that door, check the back of the door with the back of your hand to make sure that it's not too hot. And if you can open that door, open it slowly, look out, and make sure there's no smoke waiting for you in the hallway. And if there isn't, you're going to want to try and gather your family and get outside as soon as possible and call 911 when you're able. If you're unable to leave that room, and we call it shelter in place, you're going to stay in that room, block off the bottom of that door to make sure that smoke's not going to come in there. If you're unable to gather your family, you're going to make sure you call 911, let them know what your emergency is, your address, and then if you're able to open a window and hang something out the window to identify where you are.
What's this all about?
This is a portable fire extinguisher. It's a 10-pound ABC fire extinguisher. It's identified on the very front of the label that it's a multi-purpose extinguisher. So you would expect this extinguisher to be able to extinguish ordinary combustible material, flammable combustible liquids and gases, and electrically charged equipment by the identifiers on the front.
Okay.
A good acronym to remember in order to use this fire extinguisher is called PASS.
Yes, I did see that on the website.
Seen that? Okay. It's pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep.
I'm glad you didn't test me on that because I didn't even remember. So please don't ask. Okay, so pull the...
So you're going to pull the pin, and once you've pulled the pin, you're going to pick up the fire extinguisher, and you're going to aim the nozzle, and you're going to squeeze the handle and sweep at the base of the fire from approximately 9 feet away.
Okay, and has there ever been is there a chance that it could just not go off?
There is. If they get old, somewhere around the timeline of 10 years, we'd recommend replacing one.
So now that we've learned a little bit about the extinguisher, now Gary's just going to share a story that's impacted him on the job.
Yeah, so about 1 year ago, our fire suppression staff were called upon to respond to a medical emergency at a basement apartment. So they arrived at the house, they provided medical first aid to the patient in need, and while they were there, they discovered that there was a basement apartment. In fact, there was 3 tenants in the basement. So when they left the scene, they went back to the hall and they sent an email to Fire Prevention Life Safety. I received that complaint the very next morning, and I made a priority of my day to go there to this house. Actually, later the next day, we got a call from the tenant on the 2nd floor letting us know that they had had a fire emergency that very same night after we requested those smoke alarms to be installed. And the fire emergency was in the basement, and the entire house was alerted to evacuate the home because of those interconnected smoke alarms. So, yeah, that felt like a really impactful thing for me in my career here.
Yeah, well, talk about timing, right?
Yes, yeah.
And before I let you go, if there was another job you could be doing, even if it's for a day, what would it be and why?
I've always had a passion for travel, so I've also like adventure and being busy, so I think maybe being a pilot would be a lot of fun.
That would be cool.
Yeah, exploring different cultures and seeing the world.
Well, thank you so much, and let's see who else we got to talk to today.
Hi, my name is Ted Meldrick. I'm a public education officer with the City of Mississauga Fire Emergency Services.
So Ted, what's it like being over here at the Gary W. Morden Center?
Well, it's actually a great facility, Olivia. This is where all our training is being conducted, all our policies, procedures. Headquarters is now located here. We have all our fire chiefs, district chiefs here. Yeah, it's a real fun spot, a very quick-paced facility to work in.
Yeah, there's so much going on. There's camp right now. So if you are a female teenager, I will put a link below because it seems pretty cool. But what I want to start off by asking and talking about is fire alarms and smoke detectors. Let's go there. Is that just the same word?
Well, for home, it's smoke alarms.
Okay.
And if you're in a commercial building like we are in right today, it'd be smoke detector. Does the same job, but 2 different ways of getting that job done.
And these are mandatory to have in homes.
Absolutely. Smoke alarms are mandatory on every level of your home. And what we want residents to really focus on is to test them monthly. We want to make sure that they replace their batteries at least annually, at least once a year if they're battery operated. But more importantly, at the end of it all, they don't last forever. The life expectancy of a smoke alarm in our residence is about 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, and I was just curious, like whose responsibility is it? Is it the homeowner? I know my dad has personally called the fire department and they have come and they have replaced it for him. So sorry, Dad, our little secret, but I actually don't know, like whose responsibility is it?
The responsibility is the homeowners
Of course.
To ensure that their smoke alarms are operational and in working order. We do have that. What your dad probably linked into is our smoke alarm program, where firefighters will come out and, if required, will install 1 smoke alarm in your home, but the rest is really up to you.
Now, merging along to carbon monoxide alarms. Those apparently are mandatory too, but how, I guess, is it checked that every house has it?
Well, again, the silent killer, carbon monoxide. We've had so many deaths in the province of Ontario over the last decade that it became now the law that carbon monoxides are now in the Ontario Fire Code, where we can manage it and enforce the code.
And is that for every floor, just so we're crystal clear?
Bit of a change there. Unlike smoke alarms that are required in every level of our home, carbon monoxide are required outside every sleeping area.
And there you go. All right, so now we've switched spots. I don't know if you guys have noticed. But Ted here is going to show us some examples of different fire detectors and carbon monoxide plugins, I guess.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise with the residents in our city here is that there's 2 types of smoke alarms for your home. One's an ionization type of smoke alarm and one's photoelectric. Really, when you look at it, you really can't tell the difference.
They look identical to me.
But this one here is an ionization. The only reason I know that is I read the back of it.
So these come in all different shapes and sizes because I haven't seen one like this, but I have those and plenty of them.
The reason why I like this one here, it gives me a digital readout. It's going to tell me if when my alarm goes off, what's actually happening in my home.
And what is the action? Do you call the fire department?
Well, if this alarm stated that I have 100 or 125 parts per million, I would be calling 911. Get my family out to safety and let the local fire service check it out further.
And if there was another job you could be doing at this point in your life, what would it be and why?
I think I like to work with new Canadians.
Okay.
You know, just to, provide information to them in regards to fire safety, things of that nature, like just to help the community out once again.
For sure, and we appreciate your service. Well, thank you very much, Ted.
Thank you.
And thanks guys for watching.